What happens when a powerful CEO judges a man by his appearance and makes the biggest mistake of her career? In today's story, a single father walks into a billion-dollar company, carrying nothing more than an old backpack, only to be publicly humiliated by the CEO herself. But moments later, a shocking family secret is revealed, one that turns the entire situation upside down and leaves everyone speechless. Stay tuned until the end, because this incredible story has a twist you won't see coming. If you enjoy inspiring stories with powerful lessons, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get started. The lobby of Hartwell Technologies buzzed with activity as employees hurried between meetings. Near the security checkpoint stood Ethan Brooks, a tired-looking single father in his mid-30s. He wore a simple button-down shirt and carried an old backpack that had clearly seen better days. In one hand, he held a folder containing documents for a meeting he had been invited to attend. As Ethan approached the elevator leading to the executive floor, CEO Victoria Hartwell stepped out of a nearby conference room. Known for her strict standards and sharp judgment, she immediately noticed him. Her eyes moved from his worn shoes to the faded backpack hanging from his shoulder. "Excuse me," Victoria said firmly. "Where do you think you're going?" Ethan stopped and offered a polite smile. "I have a meeting upstairs." Victoria frowned. "A meeting on the executive floor?" "Yes, ma'am." Something about his appearance made her suspicious. Without asking for further details, she turned toward the security guard station nearby. "Stop him," she ordered. The conversation in the lobby instantly quieted. Several employees slowed their pace to watch. One of the guards approached Ethan. "Sir, the CEO is requesting a security inspection." Ethan looked surprised but remained calm. "Is there a problem?" Victoria crossed her arms. "If you truly belong here, then you have nothing to hide." "Search the bag." A wave of embarrassment passed through Ethan, as dozens of eyes focused on him. For a brief moment, he considered leaving. He hated being judged, especially after years of working hard to provide for his young daughter. But he took a deep breath and handed over the backpack. The guard carefully opened it. Inside was a neatly packed lunchbox, a small water bottle, and several colorful drawings made by a child. One picture showed a smiling man holding hands with a little girl. Beneath the words "Best Dad Ever" written in bright crayon, the employees exchanged uncomfortable glances. While Ethan stood silently, feeling every stare in the room, Victoria remained expressionless, convinced she had done the right thing. What happened next, however, would change the atmosphere of the entire building. The lobby remained silent as the security guard carefully placed the items back into Ethan's backpack. The colorful drawings from his daughter seemed painfully out of place. In the tense atmosphere, Ethan quietly zipped the bag and lowered his eyes, wishing the embarrassing moment would end. Then the elevator doors opened. Richard Hartwell, the elderly founder of Hartwell Technologies, stepped out accompanied by 2 board members. Although he had retired years earlier, his presence still commanded immediate respect throughout the company. As he glanced across the lobby, his expression suddenly changed. His eyes locked onto Ethan. "Ethan," Richard called out warmly. To everyone's surprise, he walked straight past Victoria and the executives waiting to greet him. Reaching Ethan, he extended both hands and shook his firmly. "I'm so glad you made it," Richard said. Ethan smiled politely. "Thank you for inviting me." "Mr. Hartwell." Victoria stared in disbelief. "Dad," she interrupted. "You know this man." Richard slowly turned toward her. "Of course I do." The confusion on Victoria's face deepened. Richard looked around the crowded lobby before speaking. "Since everyone is already gathered here, perhaps it's time the truth was known." Employees exchanged curious glances. 20 years ago, Richard began, our company was on the edge of collapse. Banks refused to help us, investors were pulling out, and we were weeks away from shutting our doors. The room grew completely silent. There was one person who believed in us when no one else did. Ethan's mother, Sarah Brooks. Ethan lowered his head at the mention of his late mother. She invested her entire life savings to keep this company alive. Richard continued, without her sacrifice, Hartwell Technologies would not exist today. Victoria's confidence began to fade. In gratitude, I granted her family a substantial ownership stake in the company. Richard paused before delivering the revelation. Ethan Brooks is not an intruder. He is one of the company's largest shareholders. A collective gasp swept through the lobby. Victoria's face turned pale as the reality hit her. Moments earlier, she had ordered security to search the bag of a man who technically owned a larger share of the company than she did. The humiliation she intended for Ethan had suddenly become her own.